Hi, Michael Buffer here, and let's get ready for Stat Sports.
Alrighty, and we are back on Stat Sports, and this week's guest, a basketball legend. I mean, you can't tell the story of basketball without this guy right here. A legend in the NBA and the ABA. For my opinion, one of the most talented and one of the most important athletes of all time. And also a fellow Nassau County native, just like myself, Dr. J, Julius Erving. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, buddy, and you must be a little biased being from Nassau County because
It's
that's where it
it's a
all
fun place
started.
to grow up, right?
Where it all started. Very fun, very fun. Yes, yes.
100%. So I know we don't have too much time here, but obviously you're here on behalf on our friends at Freedom Pop, which is the described as the #1 cell service for seniors. So curious to hear, how did the collaboration come to be between yourself and Freedom Pop?
Well, it was an invitation. I mean, obviously, a mutual entity. My professional handlers, the Authentic Brands Group, brought the deal to me, and once I looked it over, and once I met Josh, I knew that this would be a good fit. All of my life, pretty much my professional life, tried to associate my name, face, and likeness with things that I credibly could say that I used the product or my family used the product or it's something that I really, really liked and I thought would do good for our society and do good for people. And Freedom Pop cell phone service for seniors is one of those things. It could be very much near the top of the list because it affects 42 million people in the United States, which is a huge number.
That is a huge number. You're right.
Yeah.
Was gonna
Yeah,
say,
I would jump in there and say it is a huge and growing number. I'm Joshua Gordon. I'm the CEO of Freedom Pop's parent company. Nice to
oh,
meet you.
nice to meet you.
Yeah, and I
Nice to
just
meet you, Josh.
yeah, yeah. Freedom Pop it's on a mission to be America's #1 cell service for seniors, and seniors are this country's fastest growing age group, right? And they often get a raw deal on something that's fundamental to them keeping in touch, and that's their wireless service. They usually pay too much money for lousy customer service. And Freedom Pop's all about changing that, right? Plans start at just $10 a month. You can get a real live customer service agent usually in 2 minutes or less. And so with Dr. J, who's been an innovator on and off the court for many, many years, it was a natural fit to partner up with Dr. J because he has impact no matter what he does, whether it's on or off the court. And so there's not many services out there that touch just about every single senior out there besides wireless. So pairing up with Dr. J is a tremendous honor for us, and we're delighted to have him as the face of Freedom Pop.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you,
that's
Josh.
amazing. Julius, was gonna ask you just what are you most excited about with the partnership between yourself and Freedom Pop?
Well, I think the credibility and the fact that in meeting Josh and spending quality time with he and his wife, with myself and my handler, my nephew, Barry Bookhart, we've just hit it off really good, right from day one. So, so we've been in Atlanta and we've been in California, and we hope to cover a lot more territory in a very short period of time so we can, get in front of people live. And, now we have the commercial going for us and we'll have, some live appearances that will
Yeah, no, I
help
saw one of the commercials
to
while I was
cement the
watching
deal.
TV.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we have 3 or 4 of them. So keep watching, bro.
I think we all will do that. Yeah, 100%. I do want to transition a little bit to basketball, and obviously I kind of touched on it at the top. Your career, I think about. Go ahead. I thought you to say something.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, obviously, you had such an impact on the game. I think about you being like an artist, your athleticism, playing above the rim. When you reflect back on your career, how would you describe the impact that you had on basketball and especially the basketball that we watched here today?
It wasn't exact game plan. It was more something that evolved out of putting a lot of hard work in, put a lot of time in on the court. Probably being in a lot of battles with friends, in Nassau County back in Long Island, and, playing at parks, and then moving from the parks over to Queens, and then Queens to Brooklyn, Brooklyn to Manhattan, and Manhattan to the Bronx, and, playing basketball all over New York, always, looking for a competitive game, and whatever the takeaway was going to be from that game. And many times the takeaway was, going back home with your tail between your legs. And other times it was like, oh man, I really gave it to them that day. They probably won't forget me. They probably won't invite me back. So it was an evolution. And I really didn't know that I could become a professional till after my sophomore year of college. And after my sophomore year, I had a really good introductory season to varsity basketball in the NCAA. And I was also invited as an alternate to go to the Olympic Development Team's camp and, basically try out for the 72 Olympic Games and get put on the radar, put on the list of people. And I did. I played very well. But as history would have it, I didn't play in the 72 Olympics because I turned pro. So the dream came true. I did become a pro, even though I wasn't sure I could become a pro until after my sophomore season.
When I think about one of those moments where you really came onto the mainstream and really started to impact the basketball, it's that 1976 ABA dunk contest. And you're all the way on the right side of the court. And you're going to go attempt that free throw line dunk, that iconic dunk that really brought dunking to the mainstream. Just what was going through your mind as you were standing there about to attempt the dunk?
Done this many times before, usually after giving a camp or a clinic, talking to kids, and usually outside on cement. So now to be in a gym with the crowd that they had in Denver at that time and to be on a wooden floor, I knew it was going to be all right. and they had required that there was a mark about three or 4 feet away from the basket that you perform a dunk from behind that line. The basket and the foul line is like 15 feet. So I said, all right, I'm going to exaggerate what they asked for and give them a show. And George Gervin and Gary Keenan and myself, the guys who were the ABA guys, we always talked about giving the fans a good show because the ABA was a better show than the NBA.
How would you compare your dunk to Michael Jordan's free throw line dunk in that dunk contest?
Well, since I had been the one who inspired him and also kind of ushered him to do that, because I was there at that competition with me and Dominique, and he looked over at me because I was sitting there courtside, and I started pointing, go back, go back, go back. And then he came and he hopped up and he did a little Jordan-esque thing to it and whatever, and jammed it in. So his was probably a greater degree of difficulty, but since mine was so much earlier, only one guy could be the first.
100%. Another moment for you that I always think about a lot is that 1983 NBA final, just the battles between your Sixers and the Lakers. Obviously, in 80 and 82, they got you guys, but then you guys got Moses Malone, and the story was a little different. What made that 83 team just so special that no one could beat him? And of course, Moses saying, "Foe, foe, foe." And then you guys were 12-1 in those playoffs.
Yeah, we were. And Moses was the key to the Met for us. It was very frustrating that this was a 7-year chase, and we've gone to the finals 3 times in 6 years and did not succeed. And the clock was moving and the window was closing.
Yeah.
And in those days, when you got to be 35, 36, 37, it was, probably time to move on, not like 40, 41, 42. So I was 33 at the time, and I had played professionally for 12 years. So I was thinking that I would be very blessed and honored if I could play 10 years. Now here I was in year 12, and so to get that ring in the 12th year after 4 attempts at it, made me realize that, winning the ring isn't all and everything, but coming in second sucks.
Yeah, no, 100%. How would you describe going up against Magic, Kareem, and those Showtime Lakers in the 80s?
Uh, they were formidable. They always had an air about them uh, that they could control basketball game and be in control of the outcome of the basketball game. And there were a storied team that won multiple championships in the 80s. Not so much in the 70s. And Kareem was he was the ultimate just in terms of having that guy back there because he made everybody better. Magic was in a class by himself, and the supporting cast. I think they have 4 or more Hall of Famers
Yeah.
who have been inducted because of those two in particular. And I'm very fortunate that me and Moses Cheeks and Bobby Jones are all in the Hall of Fame, and we won that championship team. And I think Andrew Toney would have been a Hall of Famer had he not gotten hurt.
How would you describe your iconic layup where uh, you go basically under the basket and Kareem's got his arms outstretched? How do you describe your iconic layup there against those guys, against the Lakers?
I think there was some poetry in there, going around Landsberger and holding the ball out of bounds, kind of surveying the situation. Every time I see somebody do that now, they throw the pass to the corner.
Yep.
And the guy usually gets a 3-point shot because the defense collapses. And it was almost like that could have been a play because there was a guy in the corner. But, something from my playground days or whatever made me bring it back around and put it up on the other side of the glass, put a little, reverse English on it. And, Kareem probably could have blocked the shot very easy, but I think I caught him watching. I caught him with his arms up and he was just like looking. I was like, well, he's not going to block standing flat-footed. If you're going to block a shot, you usually crouch down a little bit. So all that was going on in a millisecond.
Something that I think about, it's almost like barbershop talk. Your Mount Rushmore of all-time dunkers, and obviously from you, Dr. J, hearing your opinion is obviously a lot more value than a lot of other people. What is your all-time Mount Rushmore of dunkers?
So it would be in-game dunkers because there's some guys who have done some stuff in the dunk contest and have done some stuff jumping over cars and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, we're talking in-game dunkers for sure.
And in-game dunkers. So, outside of myself, I want Clyde Drexler, I want Dominique Wilkins, I want Vince Carter, and I want Michael Jordan.
That's a really good list. Yeah, the only other guys I'd maybe actually. How about this? Why those guys? What separates them from the rest of the pack?
I like those guys. I like those guys. And in-game dunks, they dunked frequently in games, frequently and often and spectacularly, and they dunked in a way that inspired their team, gave them a big pickup, deflated the crowd. They did a lot of things, and I don't think that when the guys on that list dunked the ball, they were showing off.
Yeah,
they were just strutting their stuff. They was in context of how they played the game.
Something for us as basketball fans, a guy that we always kind of wanted to see in the dunk contest but have never gotten to see is LeBron. How do you think LeBron would do in dunk contests? We've seen his in-game dunks, and many of them were insane. Yeah. How do you think he would fare in the dunk contest, especially if he had done it back with Cleveland the first time around?
He would win it. He would win it if he's had 21 years, 21 first seasons. So he's had 20 invitations. He would win the slam dunk contest, and with his dunking ability, he might just want to try or do something that nobody's ever done before and come up with something like that. But I think this generation, they have a harder time accepting not having the deck stacked,
Yeah.
So if they lose, they're going to be criticized a little bit, or you're going to try again, or whatever. This guy beat you, or whatever. I don't know what it is, and the game has evolved and continues to evolve. So he's one of the great ones who got away from the slam dunk contest, and who knows? I mean, he might be back next year, and he might be in
Yeah.
it.
You kind of touched on it there, but how do we make the dunk contest the primetime event that it used to be? It just doesn't have the same flair, the same energy, especially back when you were a part of it.
Yeah, I think if you talk about that, you got to also talk about the All-Star game, because the All-Star game is
No defense.
such a disappointment right now. You know, it's not competitive, and All-Star game should be competitive, and I wouldn't worry about getting hurt. You get hurt when you're fooling around, when you're not competing. That's when you get
Yeah.
hurt.
Do you think it's a matter of like the format of it or the players not giving the full thing? Like, what would be your fix to the whole All-Star weekend, so to speak?
The fix, USA versus the internationals. You know,
Interesting.
yeah, and have civic pride as an incentive. I mean, they gotta have big numbers in terms of winners pay versus losers pay or whatever. But you know, pride in country, pride in where you're from, pride in nationality. That's in the end, and you know, I guess the Ryder Cup does that. USA against the rest of the world or whatever. That's always been a big event. It's always been competitive. You see the drive and
Yeah.
enthusiasm of the competitors, and they do something well to support their team or whatever. I think you would see that again.
100%. So for you personally, just whether it's on the court, off the court, what's the thing you want to be most remembered for in basketball?
I think daring to be great. You know, the term came to me while I was in college, and my coach, he said, attitude is altitude, and he said, dare to be great. This was Jack Lehman, and you know, he put that thought in my head that yeah, if you don't dare to be great, you never got a chance of being great. And attitude, it brings altitude. So very simple. I didn't understand it at first, but I became once I understood it, I embraced it.
No, I love that. Best Nassau County memory from growing up there, whether it's basketball, non-basketball, just what's your best Nassau County memory, Dr. J?
Let's see. Well, Campbell Park, Kennedy Park, Roosevelt Park, Bethpage, Belmont Park. The park system,
Yeah.
the park system in Nassau County is second to none, and some of them are called vest pocket parks or whatever. But Roosevelt Park was beautiful. I mean, we had a lake, we had tennis courts, we had basketball courts, we had baseball field, and we didn't have a football field. The high school had that, but the parks, you can go in any one of those townships, and you go in the villages of the townships, and there was always a park there that was supported by the county. And I worked for the county when I got selected to go to the Olympic development team. I was working at the park after my sophomore year of college, and so it was a county job. So I've always had an affinity and a love for Nassau County, and continue to this day.
You were born in.
And now we have a park at Eisenhower Park with my name on the court.
I was going to ask, you know about Eisenhower Park? That's my favorite one.
Yeah. We put a court there last summer. Nancy Lieberman and her group, they dedicated a court in my name at Eisenhower Park.
Yeah, no,
so you have to go
amazing.
back there and check it out.
I am going to check it out. Yeah, no, appreciate that. Do I dare to ask you how you feel about the GOAT conversation between LeBron, Kobe, MJ, whoever you feel it is?
You know, I mean, I've always said if I wanted to play with a guy, or who did I look up to the most in my basketball career, it was probably Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And, you know, the Michael, Magic, the conversations, LeBron, and what have you. You know, when I pick my all-time team, I don't pick any of the guys that I played against. I pick the previous generation that inspired me when I was a teenager. And And Kareem has kind of been the only exception to that team because, he would have to be on that team somehow. So, other than Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, and Jerry West and Oscar Robertson, who's my all-time five, then Kareem's the next guy. So if they're going to put a GOAT out there, it's got to be Kareem.
It's funny because when I talked to Walt Clyde Frazier, he said the same thing. But why is Kareem your guy? Why is he number one for you? What separates him from the rest of the pack?
At every level, high school, college, and at the pros, he excelled in a way that no other, my opinion, no other player did. And validation is of MVPs, validation in terms of championships, validation in terms of scoring titles, records, and the stats, and putting guys in the Hall of Fame. I mean, you become Kareem's teammate, you got a pretty good chance of going to the Hall of Fame. And I would think between his stay in Milwaukee and in LA, for 20 seasons, if we look at the other players who have made the Hall of Fame, who were his teammates, nobody has a higher number.
A lot of people will say it's the 6-0 in the finals for Michael Jordan, winning in college, winning in the NBA. Just is that? How do you feel about, I guess, MJ and Kareem specifically?
MJ was great. He was phenomenal, and probably didn't make guys better the way that Kareem did, but certainly stood out and excelled. And considering the time in which he played a very tough time to play in the NBA, it was very physical. Guys were trying to take you out. I mean, he had to redesign his meal plan and his physical training. Put on a little.
Yeah, beef up to get to beat the bad boys.
Yeah, to play Detroit, or whatever. So, Michael, it's all a matter of what flavor ice cream do you like? You like strawberry, you like chocolate, you like vanilla, you like banana, or whatever. They're both ice cream. So it's just a matter of what flavor you like.
No, I love that. So the story that people always ask about, right, is how'd you get your nickname, Dr. J? I know it kind of has some origins back to when you were growing up. Just how'd you get exactly your nickname, Dr. J?
In Roosevelt, my buddy, who lifetime friend and still my friend to this day, Leon Saunders, he dubbed me the doctor, and I dubbed him the professor. And so we'd have professional sounding nicknames. And so I was the doctor, and he was the professor. And when I got to the Virginia Squires, and people started asking me what my nickname was or whatever, do you have a nickname? And I said, the doctor. And he said, well, we got doctors all over this place. We got medical doctors and trainers and, a doctor of sorts or whatever. So you got to be Dr. J.
Yeah.
They put the J on it, and then they started advertising. The two stars of the team in Virginia were Charlie, and they call him Charlie the Great Scott, and Julius Dr. J. Erving. So we had banners and billboards and all that kind of stuff with my name and Charlie's name on there because he was there before me. And, we did something a few weeks ago back in Virginia. It was a reunion, and, some people were bringing that stuff out with the two of us having our nicknames on there as promo items. So that was a fun experience, and that's the evolution of my nickname.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's amazing. Final thing here before I let you get out of here. I know you've talked about in the past how maybe the ABA doesn't get the love that it necessarily deserves from the NBA and kind of the history of the ABA. Just what's the thing that you want people to remember most about the ABA and the legacy that it leaves behind?
Everything about it. I mean, information is for usage, and with the proper usage of information, it tells a story. So those are great stories, which I think should be told. I mean, people's lives, livelihoods, whether they were owners, whether they were managers, whether they were coaches, whether they were players, whether they were involved in the front office, or just fans. There's so many fans of the game who I run into constantly who reflect back on that period from 1971 to 1976 for me, and 1967 to 1976 for the league. And there's a lot of history buried in there. The last year, the All-Star game was in Indianapolis. The champions of the league were the Denver Nuggets. I mean, those were formerly places where there were ABA franchises. Indiana won 3 ABA championships. They were the most storied ABA franchise. The Nets were second, 2. And the Nuggets didn't win any, but they won last year.
Yeah.
And it was a very, very big deal. And I was pulling for them, and because, you know, I still cheer for the old ABA cities and the old ABA teams.
Dr. J, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And obviously, we're here on behalf of Freedom Pop, the #1 cell service for seniors. Guys, really appreciate the time today. Dr. J, all the best.
Thank you, Rob.